show you how to delegate to your virtual assistant, especially if they're remote, so that as you are passing work to them, you can feel entrusted that they are completing it to expectations on time, and you can then just focus on the stuff that you need to do in the business. So specifically with this one, I'm going to give an example of a client that I'm recently working with who is she's based in the USA and her virtual assistant is working from the Philippines. So this is very paramount that there's communication happening and that it's strong. And at the moment, what my client is struggling with is that she's delegating these tasks at the moment through email, and she is not sure if the VA has received the email as it hasn't been acknowledged, and she's not sure if she's going to complete the task on time. So what often happens is she ends up doing it herself, or she gives it to somebody else to do. But there's also in the background, the VA is what did actually do it, and there's been a double up or duplication of work. So what I've advised her to do is to move off email delegating tasks and use a project management tool. So she's already using Trello as part with her in-house team. So I advise her just to bring the virtual assistant into this software, something you have an existing, rather than using Asana or ClickUp. There's multiple different project management tools out there that are great, but as she's using Trello already and everything's built and set up there, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just stick with what you've got already. So what I advise for how to set it up for the virtual assistant is to have one board with 3 different areas, transitions that they would go through: to do, doing, and done. Keeping it very simple. And then what we're going to be doing is the stage 1 is to actually delegate that task out, because often if you're emailing, there's a lot of ping pong communication going back and forth. And what can happen is things get lost in translation, information gets missed or lost or forgotten about, and there will be a delay and hold up. Also, I don't like it because you can't really track what you sent to them, what tasks have been sent, what was the information, and you can't hold everything in your mind for memory. So this is a great way to just download all the things that are in your mind that you want somebody to do, and then it's then handed over to them to be responsible for completion of that task. So here you'll see in the to-do, we've added some tasks in here already as an example. So we have research stats. What we want to do in this scenario is to give a description of exactly what those statistics are that you're looking for. So I've added in here, can you find research and studies with the benefits of caring for elderly at home rather than in a care home? Find 10 quotes by the end of next week. So I've been specific about how many quotes I want. And then I've said, create a Google Doc with your findings. Put your findings into a Google Doc. And then we've even gone a step further and we're going to add in here a quote or research information so that they have an example of what that quote should look like. Or if you've done this research before, but you want an updated version because there may be more studies since then you can attach that document from the past findings that you had. And then I've added another bit on here about if this is a new task, because sometimes I find with team members when I ask them to do research, they can go the wrong way because they're not used to that. So what I've added on here is send me the first 2, so then I can give them feedback before they do the rest of it. Because often if they spend time looking for the 10, it then comes back to you and then you find out, okay, that's not quite right, but now we're at the closer deadline. We're not going to get this done in time. So what I like to do is ask them to send me 2, and you can even specify, send me 2 within the next day. And then the final ones will need to be done by the end of next week. That way, you give them the opportunity to send the information, check and review that it is what you're looking for, give them feedback so they can improve on the final 8 that they need to submit. This is an opportunity in here as well. If it's more specific and technical, you can add a Loom video showing them how to do it. So you're actually doing the task, especially if it's a reoccurring task that they need to do on a weekly or daily basis. You can record yourself doing the task. Record your screen doing the task and then add the link here. Loom is a great software for doing that. And then they have that video to rinse and repeat and watch so that they can actually undertake that task without you being involved in it. So that's an example of it being well delegated. We've added the label so we know what priority the task is. So you can I've used a traffic light system. Urgent red, medium is in orange and low priority is in green. So again, if there's multiple tasks being added to this screen, you can actually differentiate, well, the team member can differentiate which one they should focus on first, because often what can happen is we could focus on the easiest one or the one that we want to enjoy and want to do first, but it might not be necessarily the one that's most urgent for the business needs. So as you are the CEO of the business, you have more of a rundown and overview of what's going on. It's best that you assign the priority of that task. And then most important is to add that deadline time and date in there for when it needs to be completed. You can see an example here of when it's not been delegated correctly is that we have just put in here, create report for new clients. What is the report? Which clients? Is it specific clients we're doing this for? What is the due date? It's just open for so much connotation that this could deliver 1,000 different results. So it's very important that we be very specific about what report it is, what clients, maybe an example of the report, maybe a Loom video showing how you've done that report before. Where are they obtaining the report from? How much detail do you want in that report? Just giving all that key information would be very useful so that they could just actually do the task without having to come back and ask a lot of questions. Because often what happens when we hire is we give something to someone to do, but there's not enough information. So then they ask you all the information they need, and then you feel like, okay, but I've hired you to do the work. I might as well have just done it myself. So it's important at the beginning you download all that information and knowledge to them. So over time, you won't need to give them all that information because they understand it from previous history of delegating those tasks. Again, we have here book travel to Miami for Christmas. Okay, yes, we know it's Christmas, so we kind of know the dates of when you would want to travel, but we don't know specifics of like, do you want to travel in the morning? Do you want to travel in the evening? What airline do you prefer to travel with? What class? Which airport? You know, all those different fundamental information that we'd need. Airport transfers. Do you want meal requests, specific meal requests? Do you want us to book meetings while you're there? There's certain things that are missing from this. So again, this would be very difficult for someone to work on this task without knowing all the key information. So this is a great example of where we would say this is a great task to delegate. It's got all the key information for the person to do it. The next step after this, once you've given them all the source of information, is now for it to be handed over. Now it's the virtual assistant's responsibility to complete this task. You've done your bit. You've given them the work. What key layer we need to add on here now is for the virtual assistants to review this task and to acknowledge it. The reason why they're reviewing this task is to make sure that they have access to all the information they need. Do they have access to your Google Docs? Do they understand what it is that they need to do within the research? And if they have any questions, they need to ask that at the beginning of when the task has been delegated and not wait until close to the deadline date, because again, that means that the quality standards of work is not going to be kept. They may miss the deadline because they're waiting for more information from you that they're not sure of. So what we want to ask them to do is to review it at early stages of being delegating. And then what we want them to do is just to do a tick or comment, confirmed and will be completed on time. That way, you as a CEO can be rest assured that they've received the task, they understood the task, and now you can take it off your plate and it's been handed to them and you can be rest assured that they're going to complete the task. Because the client I'm working with at the moment, as I've mentioned, she was concerned that she didn't know whether she'd received the task, if she was going to do it on time, if she had any questions. And then that left her in a situation where the CEO was doing some of the tasks or was delegating it to somebody else. Which is not really the great place to be in, because the whole point of delegating is that you can give it to one person to do and then you are freed up in your mind, in your space, in your energy to do other things that you need to do to grow and focus on the business. So that's one key extra step that we need to do. So once the VA then has acknowledged and they you can even add an extra bit here if you want to, an acknowledged tab. So you'd go to do, acknowledge, doing, done. Could be another way to do it as well. So then once the VA starts working on it, it needs to be moved to doing. So that means that you know that they're working on that task now and there's activity happening in the background. And then what we want to do after that is then once it's been completed is move it to done. They will then check this box to say that it's been completed. And you'll see now it's got green to say that that has been done. And then you'll see that there's some other tasks there that's been left to do here. So that's just a real overview of how to use a project management tool to delegate to your team to make sure that tasks have been moved through the pipeline. You know, especially with working with a remote team, you know what they're working on, what they're delivering, and that tasks are being met to the standards of expectations. Feel free to use this explanation, this method within other project management tools. It works just as effectively in Monday.com, ClickUp, Asana, all those other great platforms too. Any questions, then feel free to drop your comments and enjoy the rest of your day.